Hi everyone. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Today we have Rima with us. She is an expert in logistics and supply chain. So she will guide us today through the journey of e-commerce logistics, and she will support us to understand more how to deliver our products to our customers worldwide. So Rima, I will let you introduce yourself, your experience, and start the presentation. And please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. So Rima will reply to all the questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
I will start sharing the screen. And so just a brief idea about who I am. I am the GM of Sea Sky Services SARL in Beirut and the director of Sea Sky Services in UK. I've been doing this for the past 25 years. Please don't calculate my age. I started very early, so just keep it between us. And the most important thing that I wanted to share with you today is that for the past 2 years, me and my team have been doing lots of support for the MSMEs, especially for the export journey. As you all know, Lebanon is facing a critical period, and with the COVID that all of us have shared for the past 2 years as well, all the economies faced lots of problems, and export is one of the most important thing for all economies. That's why we have been doing everything possible to help the companies to become export ready and to assist them in their export journey. We also opened in UK Sky Services, and we are partner in a startup called Levantine Living that helps the exporters in Lebanon and in all the region to find buyers for their products in UK and later on in Europe. So this is in brief. You can read my definitely my bio later on in LinkedIn if you want. At Sea Sky Services, what we do, we have been since 1995 shipping by air, sea, and land. We provide this service. We are customs clearing as well since 1929, and we are IATA agents and member of WCA. WCA
Rima,
has 10. Sorry,
Rima, sorry, can you, I don't know, adjust your micro a bit?
it's
Because,
not clear.
no, it's not clear, the voice, it's a bit,
Okay, let me just put then the mic. It's better to see
yeah,
it.
I think yes.
Is it better now?
Yeah, I think that this way is better.
It's better. Everybody can hear me. Please, can you write on the chat if you can hear me? Is it okay now?
We have a bit of noises.
Now,
Yeah,
now better,
now better.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So we are, like I said, the member of WCA, which has 10,000 agents around the world. What we do at Sky is we do the export management consultancy, like I was explaining, air freight, sea freight, cross-strait shipments, customs clearance, and everything else. Today, what I wanted to talk about, and this is very important, is how to increase your sales as exporters by mastering the Incoterms. Are you all familiar with the Incoterms, or somebody is not familiar? If anybody is also not familiar at all, we will go step by step. But today I will talk about the Incoterms from the perspective of the exporter, as you as SMEs. So what are the Incoterms? How do you know your obligations, risks, and liabilities, and how to calculate your product's cost based on the Incoterms that you are going to use? I know that most of you probably are focusing on B2C, but the most important thing in e-commerce, actually, and what gets the money is the B2B. So we will be talking about both, but we will focus on the B2B sector. So how to increase your sales internationally? Now, we all know we have a problem. The problem is actually it's the related to can anybody reply, because it's very obvious that we all know what it is. It's actually the 49% that has been published for 2021 about the abandonment of the cart when we are talking about e-commerce. The problem is that most of the buyers are not clicking at the end to buy the product because they are finding that the shipping cost is very high. Why the shipping cost is very high? Definitely due to many reasons, but one of the major reasons is that most of you and most of the people that are selling online as B2C are using courier services. They are using the express service, that is either DHL, TNT, whatever, and selling the client as just that service, just one product to the end user. So how can we minimize that? What is the solution? The solution is, let's pay attention and please take notes, because later on we will have some calculations. So if you will have a pen and the paper next to you, it would be good, because we will have a certain exercise that we're going to go through. We have to start thinking logistics and stop thinking transportation. Why? Transportation, at the end of the day, is moving one product from one place to another. This is by air, sea, or land. While logistics, it covers the whole scope of activities that facilitates the management of product movement within the supply chain. This is very important, and probably you all heard about it before, but I want to dissect every part so that you would see why I'm insisting on that point. You have an order. After that, you will have the documentation. You have to see if your product is export ready. Then the seller, you, will provide for the shipping company or for the freight forwarder. Freight forwarder, I think you're all familiar with the term. And this freight forwarder is the one who handles finding you a place or to booking the cargo on a certain vessel or on a certain plane. And then you will have the customs broker, which is who will assist you in everything related to the customs and the formality, to reach at the end of the day the warehouse and to be shipped and to be done to the last mile. So the whole scope of that, it is actually the logistics part. But if you focus only on the shipping, you will be just handling the part starting from just one section of the chain. Now, what is the solution? How can we minimize our shipping costs? This has lots of things to consider, but let's focus on one thing right now. And I know that probably most of you would consider this is very idealistic, but believe me, I'm talking about this from experience. The most important thing for you is that you have to research very well the marketplace that you want to target. I know that all of you have already worked with the ITC maps, with the tools, and all of you know how to do the research. You know which market to target, how to target it. But the most important thing is that you have to research your competition very well in the markets that you are selling to search and to really look actually there on the selling prices of the prices of the competition. You have to calculate your product's cost by using the Incoterms to know how to sell at a very competitive price. You have to generate enough demand to have enough sales so that you can have enough big quantities, and these big quantities will indirectly minimize your transportation cost. So instead of sending one item, let's say from Jordan to Saudi Arabia, you can ship one pallet and put it in a warehouse in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh or in Jeddah, and then through a fulfillment center, you can send the products to your clients as a last mile delivery. You have also to negotiate the best deals with the fulfillment centers at the destination countries. These people are the ones that are, at the end of the day, are providing the last service to your customers. So if they do not have a good service, if they do not have a good rate, all your product selling and sales will be compromised. So the four modes of transportation employed are, as you all know, are by sea, by by train, which is not very familiar in our region, but it's there, and by plane. How do we use them and why? It all depends on cost, speed, flexibility, environmental impact, which is something that we all should consider these days. Sustainability is one of the major facts that even consumers, especially in Europe and USA, are considering it. So we have to look at all of these facts. So what is the difference? What is the definition of Incoterms? All this introduction is to come to this part. Incoterms are a set of rules published by the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, which relate to international commercial law. This is something that was done in 1937, where all everything related to trade has been in a one way or another customized in one book or in one booklet. These rules, they are providing the internationally accepted definitions, and they interpret for most common commercial terms used in contracts for the sale of goods. So at the end of the day, Incoterms, they answer the following questions. Which party is responsible for the shipping costs, the risk transfer of when cargo is moving, the insurance cost, the import-export cost, division of obligations, transport, and where does it go, and the customs clearance as well. So there are 11 Incoterms, and they have been, now we have 2020. It has been adjusted 7 times already. What you need to know is that there are 4 Incoterms that are just for the sea freight, only for sea, that are FAS, FOB, CFR, CIF, while the other 7 Incoterms, they can be used in all modes of transportation. We will go one by one, but we will talk about certain Incoterms more than the others, because it's related to your scope of work as well. So and here is the example, and here where I want you to take some notes. Let's say that we have a sales contract from somebody in Dubai. They want to buy 100 shirts from a factory that is already existing in Egypt. This sales contract, we will take the example of 100 shirts on purpose, because later on I want to show you when it's 1,000 shirts, what would be the difference. This is what it comes again to the fact that when you increase your sales, you will minimize your transportation costs. So let's see how to calculate the consumer price. I want you just to look at this very briefly, because I want to go now to each Incoterm separately. If we have Xworks, the Xworks part, it's the lowest risk Incoterm. What does it say? It says that I, as a buyer, I'm responsible for picking up the cargo from the factory, and the seller, who is you, the exporter, is not responsible for anything else. So me, as a buyer in Dubai, I'm going to send my freight forwarder, somebody that I trust, definitely in Egypt, to the factory in Egypt in order to get the products, the 100 shirts, from the factory. So if we have the cost of production in the factory, which is $7. Okay, now I'm going into the breakdown of this formula. You will definitely have to add over it additional docs, the tests, the licenses, the marketing, everything which is related to making your product ready to be exported. So once you add that, let's say we have the cost of production $7, and then you will have $1.5, all these additionals. You will have an export cost price. This is the price, which is 8.5 in this case. This price, it is the price where your cargo is ready in your factory to be exported. You have to add definitely your profit markup, which let's say 20%. In this case, it's 1.5. So you will have an Xworks price of $10. When I went down into that sheet, I mentioned that the Xworks price is $10 per item based on the calculation before. Is it clear for everybody? please, if you can mention in the chat if everything is clear, or you can just thumbs up or hands on. Just tell me if everything is clear for you or you want me to go slower. All fine? Okay. I presume everything is clear then. So here we will have the customer will pick up and your price on your sales contract, on your commercial invoice, the one you will send to the the buyer in Dubai, it will read $10 per shirt. This is, you're done. You have no obligations as a seller, as an exporter. You have no liability. The risk is all transferred to the buyer in Dubai. Elvira, I think people are waiting in the waiting room. This is what I'm seeing. Now, if your buyer wants to buy cargo, not on X Workspaces, he tells you, I want the price to be FCA. What does FCA mean? FCA, it means that your product, it means, first of all, it's free carrier. That is, you as a seller, you are obliged in the country that you are selling. Let's say when you are selling in Egypt, you are obliged to bring the 100 shirts to a certain place called carrier. That is either to the warehouse of the freight forwarder company you are selling, or you put it on a truck, but you have to specify the destination. Let's say it's FCA Alexandria. Okay, so this is just when you are selling on FCA, you are selling the product here up like it is in this animation. If you can see, this is you as a seller, and you are on the truck, and this is your product, and your product is on the truck, and this is how we say it's like FCA Alexandria, or it can be in a warehouse, but you have to specify with this. Let's say the trucking cost is 200. Okay, so the 200 is the cost. If we're talking about 100 items, then you will have a trucking from the factory up to FCA Alexandria. We mentioned the address exactly where it is. Let's say Alexandria, I don't know the exact street, for example, but you will mention it. You will have $2 per item extra over the ex-works cost. Now, what about the obligation, the risk here? The risk is that everything related to the transportation part from the factory up to the FCA part is on the exporter's account. Meaning, if there is an accident, for example, this truck has an accident before arriving to the place where it's supposed to bring it up, you as an exporter are obliged to pay for all this accidental risk, while your buyer in Dubai is not responsible for that. So if the truck has an accident and all your t-shirts have been ruined, you are obliged to make another order for 100 shirts and prepare them and send them back, while your buyer doesn't have any obligation, because Incoterms always specify the risks, the obligations, and the liabilities. Is that clear? Any questions? Nothing? Okay. So what else? Now we are going to talk about, we mentioned that the ex-works price is 10. The first mile cost, which is like the FCA and other charges, to FOB value, we will have 15. How? I will go back to the, this is another Incoterm, we will come to it later, but I want to finish the example. So free on board. What does free, now we mentioned the ex-works, we mentioned the FCA, and now we're talking about the FOB. This is a very important Incoterms. Most shipments are done based on FOB terms. And as we said before, this is only for the sea shipments. You cannot say FOB and mention that you are going to send the cargo by air freight. So when we're talking about FOB, we're saying that if you follow this, this guy, the seller, like we said, he is exactly on the ship. So free on board, it means that your product is on the ship already, and it is ready, it's here, and all your liabilities, all your obligations, all your risks as a seller finish here on the vessel at the port of loading. That is, if we're talking about Egypt, we're talking about Alexandria port, and here your responsibility finishes. If anything happens after that, for example, God forbid, this vessel sinks, the product is sank and it didn't reach Dubai, then it is the responsibility of the buyer in Dubai. It's not your responsibility anymore because you are not responsible for the sea journey. This is not you. You're responsible for everything before that. So if we want to calculate what will be the cost of your product when you are selling it on FOB basis, we mentioned before that we had $10, if you remember, for the X-Works, right? And then we have the trucking. The EX1, it's called the export formality. And we have the port charges plus the free-in charges. When we're calculating here, we're calculating for the whole products, yani the 100 shirts. So this is just an assimilation. It's not true, but just to give you an idea. We're talking about now a $500 value for the FOB, which divided by 100, it will be, you will have a $5 per shirt when we're talking about FOB price. So to go back to the example, we said that X-Work price was $10, but if your client in Dubai asks you to give him a cost for your product on FOB basis, you cannot give him 10, you have to give him 15. Because this is how you calculate your cost based on the Incoterms, as we mentioned before. If the freight is 5, freight is the sea voyage. It is the this is definitely per item. The sea freight, we mentioned before, it's 500 for the 100 items. So divided by 100, it will be 5 per item. What is CFR? CFR, it is cost and freight. It means your product, or actually you as an exporter, have the full responsibility of bringing all the items up to the port of discharge. That is, for our example, we loaded from a port of loading called Alexandria in Egypt, and we want to send it to Dubai. This is the port of discharge. When we're talking about CFR, it means you, as an exporter, has the responsibility to bring the product up to FOB vessel Dubai, just on the board of the vessel. So your liabilities and the risk, they finish here. If, by any chance, when the product or the container or whatever container was being discharged, that is, it is unloaded from the vessel to go down to the pier in the port in Dubai, if the crane falls and this container falls and the product that you are selling is destroyed, this is on the responsibility of the buyer, not on you. Why? Because your responsibility actually ends here. It ends at the port, at the FOB vessel Dubai. So when we're talking risks and liabilities, when we're talking about even about costs, everything for the cost of your product has to be calculated up to FOB vessel Dubai when you are giving the price for the Dubai importer. I know it's too much. I know it's too much info, but just look at it as like calculation, not anything else. So if we say that the sea freight is 500, like we mentioned before, we have $1,000. If divided by 100, we will have $10 per item. This way, when we go back to our previous, where is it? The calculation, I think it was before, after that. Okay. then you will have the freight. If it's $5, like we said, you will have the CFR value $20. The insurance is something that I recommend to be done all the time, not just when you have somebody asking you to do insurance. It's for your own good, and it's very good for your buyer to have insurance all the time. But there are certain Incoterms that force you to do the insurance. In this case, when we're talking about CIF, this is the CFR plus the insurance. Then the insurance here, we made the calculation on 0.05%. We will have a value of $21 per shirt. Because we're talking about Dubai and Egypt, there is a trade agreement, as you know, between the Arab countries. So we will have import duties of 0%. That is, the products coming from within the Arab countries, they do not pay any customs dues. That's why we have 0%. We will have the other last mile charges, and here where the other Incoterms will come into place. Okay, so we have delivery at place, and this is when we mentioned the CIF. We have the delivery at place, and this is also related to all modes of shipments, by air, by sea, and by land. And when we're talking about DAP, it means you, as a seller, have the responsibility to bring the cargo up to the place of the buyer. But what does it exclude? It means you just are responsible for the trucking from the port of Dubai to the buyer's place or warehouse. You have to always mention after DAP the name of the place. Let's say, for example, Dubai Al Quoz area. You have to say DAP Al Quoz. DAP, it's only about trucking and about the discharging of the container from the port, from FOB vessel to the port area. But everything related to customs dues, everything related to things with the customs in Dubai, it's not related to you. So the DAP here, it's about, we said we have 500 for the sea freight before. We said we have 100 for the insurance. We have 200 for the truck from the port to the buyer. So we will have $1,300 for the whole operation so far. Divided by 100, we will have a $13 per item. So if we go back to page, I think 13, it was, no, I'm losing it. Okay, we go back to page 16. We will see that here the last mile charges are 3, and now we will see how. And you will have a price for duty paid value of 24. Duty paid is DDP. This is another Incoterm. It's not the DAP that we mentioned. And I mentioned DAP because lots of people make this mistake. They think that DAP is the DDP. On the contrary, delivery duty paid, it means that you also handle the customs clearing and paid the customs dues if there is any. So here we have the import formality, because we said that the customs dues are not necessary between the Arab countries, but you have the import formality that somebody, the customs broker, has to do the import formality for you. And this is why it is $14 here. So your responsibility as a seller, it is the maximum risk for you to sell on DDP basis. Why? Because you are responsible for all this. From your factory till the buyer's warehouse, it is 100% your responsibility to do it, and it's your risk. So you are buying your client everything, sorry, you are selling with everything up to the place where he is accepting the cargo. Is that clear? really, it's all clear. If any questions, I will answer them later on. But please write your questions now so that we can really see later on if there are any questions to be answered. So when we're talking about DDP, we got a figure of $24. If you can see from $7 as the cost of production coming to 24, we're talking about 30% already. The landed cost of the warehouse, that is when you send the cargo to the warehouse, it is $24. And what happened here? Okay. So I don't want to go into these details now, but this is like just an example of how you price your product to the consumer directly. But you have a landed cost, and then based on that, you have the markup of the importer wholesaler. Uh, Usually it's like 90% or 100% or 80%. It depends who you are selling. And then you will have the markup retailer as well. Like for example, in this case, we have 5% as well in Dubai as VAT. This is how you calculate how much your consumer at the place you are selling. In Dubai, for example, they will have the product, the shirt, which is $7 in your warehouse, in your factory. They will have it in the shops for $92.4. Imagine how much. Now, there is another assimilation that I cannot share right now due to the time, is that when you have 1,000 shirts as a contract of 1,000 shirts instead of 100, you will have the consumer price at around $80. So imagine how much you can lower and you can lower the cost and be more competitive in another country if you manage to increase as much as possible the shipment for you. Yani when you sell 100 shirts, the cost is much higher per shirt than when you sell 1,000 shirts. I know it's hard to directly bring sales and to manage to increase and to get such demand for your products, but I'm sure that you, as entrepreneurs, you are in this journey because you can do it. So try to think big, try to increase as much as possible the demand that you have in the countries that you are going to sell in order to minimize your transportation cost and try to sell as much as possible quantities in the same country so that also through the fulfillment center that you are going to have a contract with, you can manage to lower everything from the first mile till the last mile delivery. Regarding Incoterms, this is a kind of a summary of what we discussed. It's like where the exporter's responsibility ends and the responsibility of the buyer. It is very important, as I mentioned before, to know that you have risks. In transportation, it's all about risks. Really, there are lots of vessels that sink. If they don't sink, they have problems. They have sometimes there's something called, even the captain of the vessel, if they find that the quantities of the containers are jeopardizing the whole ship, they have the right to throw containers in the sea. So it's very important for you to know that you have to minimize your risk as much as possible and to calculate your transportation costs, to know where your risk starts and where does it end. And these tables, they are, I think it's on all the internet and in the ICC website that you can check, and you can also ask me. There's no problem at all. So the risks and the liabilities and everything related to costing, it's all related to the Incoterms. That's why it's very important for you to master the Incoterms. So this is
Hi, Rima.
table.
Will we be going a bit through the liabilities and risk part?
Sorry?
Will you be going a bit through the liabilities and risk part?
If we have time, I will. Promise. But let me see first if we have answers, questions and answers. But if you want, you can just, if we go back to the table, let me show you. This part, it's about, if you can see it, you are able to see the X works, for example.
Yes.
So you will have the cost is in green, the risk is in red, and the insurance in blue, all right? When we're talking about X works, look the exporter, it all ends at the factory. While for FCA, it ends where you deliver the cargo as an exporter. And look, for example, at the DDP down, the risk is all the way till the importer. So it is a degradation, actually, but from the XWorks, it is the lowest risk possible, while the DDP is the highest risk.
So for CIP, the seller actually buys the insurance for his risk and then for the buyer's risk too.
To tell you the truth, as I said before, the insurance is not CIP. It's obligatory, yes. It finishes just at the place of at the destination. Yani before it goes to the customs, the CIP, as an exporter, your risk finishes. All the responsibility now is on your buyer. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's just if you follow this chart, it would be really easy for you to know when does the risk starts and who takes it and when does it finish.
Can we ask questions now or later?
I think we can, Elvira, even if I didn't finish the presentation, if there's something. Okay.
Yes, for sure.
First, to the two examples for the FCA, from the point of when they want to get to the FCA, you said that if the crane falls, if the container falls from the crane, it is still the responsibility of the buyer.
It's
right?
the FOB, I think. It's not the FCA.
Sorry, the FOB, right.
Okay.
And then you said also if it's on the ship, it's also the responsibility of the buyer.
Okay, so let me just let's go to the FOB and then the CFR. I think there's here a mix-up. Okay, so we're going to talk. I'm going to talk. I think we mentioned the crane in the FCR. Okay, so here when I mentioned about the crane, it was CFR. Sorry, that is the right. This is what you were asking about.
Yes, it was. It's the thing is, my question is the responsibility. Why should the buyer be responsible for whatever happens at the port or on the ship?
No, it's
why
not why.
is
It's the Incoterms. This is it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it is the Incoterms. I get it, but I know what is the logic?
May I help with the answer here, Rima?
Yeah, of course. Hala, hi.
Hi dear, كيفك يا قلبي؟
Alhamdulillah.
First of all, the Incoterms are not a sales contract. The Incoterms are included in a sales contract. When you decide which Incoterms to include in your sales contract, it is going to affect your responsibilities as well as your liabilities, as well as the financial trade where you receive your documents for your letters of credit. Now, I'm going to leave the floor to Rima, but just to let you know, in Unit 3, the group Mazen, Dr. Mazen, Irenda, and Patricia, we have all this covered and recorded comprehensively with respect to pricing to international trade. I think Rima's presence here is extremely valuable because she's giving you a hands-on walk. So it is not a sales contract, but it affects your price.
I know it's not the same. I am fully aware that this is an agreed upon international Incoterm, but the rationale, I wanted to understand the rationale behind it. And the other question was how to avoid the risk of the captain throwing the container in the sea. And no, when they load the ship, they should know what's on it. They should know that whatever.
To tell you the truth, I want to tell you, I'm a lawyer as well and specialized in maritime law. If you read the bill of lading from the back, because the bill of lading, it's a 3 original bill of lading, and it has a back end. It's exactly like the insurance policy. Nobody reads it. But if anybody reads the bill of lading, contract of transport, nobody will ship cargo. It's all the shipping lines have the possibility to do whatever they want with the cargo, and there is nothing that the buyer or the seller can do about it if it jeopardizes the ship. This is the international law. This is maritime law. Neither me or you can do about it. And I would just want to say something like Hala mentioned, and it's 100% true. The Incoterms are not sales contract. Today we are discussing them from the sales contract point of view because they are related actually to international trade. So we're giving examples about how you have to cost your product. Because in every commercial invoice, in every sales contract, the first thing that your buyer will ask, give me the price, and he will mention which Incoterm he wants. Give me your FOB price, give me your Xworks price. If you want to avoid all the risks, you can go always Xworks, which is the lowest risk possible. But for me, to become an exporter, to become really a player in the international trade, if you go with the Xworks, you will not get enough sales as you should. But if you want to go the first steps as an exporter, you can start by Xworks. That is, the buyer will handle everything. And later on, step by step, you will become stronger. You will have more demand. You will be more powerful in calculating and knowing your risks and liabilities. You can switch to other Incoterms if you want. I don't know who raised first, so I'm seeing Ayman.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much for the information, so much information. But I don't know, I think we have to say that we have to sell with the maximum risk, what is DDP. I think for us as e-commerce entrepreneurs, I mean, we'll not choose between which minimum risk is possible. I think we have to.
You're talking about B2B or B2C?
B2C and other questions. Yeah, if you can talk to us about B2B. So
okay,
yeah.
So B2C actually, this is what's happening, and I know that from experience, lots of people are suffering. And they have very huge complaints from their customers because you, as a seller, think that you are selling DDP, but in reality, it is DAP. That is, you send like, what do you sell, Ayman?
For me, it is dates.
Sorry?
Dates.
Dates, okay. Mm-hmm. So you sell a box of dates, let's say, from which country?
Palestine.
Okay,
but,
from
but
Palestine.
it could be from Europe because I have also another.
Okay, let's say to any place, you're selling it to Jordan. Okay, you give I think you are selling using which courier service?
Yeah, now I think how you call it, Aramex. You know,
okay, let's say Aramex. Okay,
yeah.
You sell you give to Aramex. You believe. And I don't know if this is happening with you, but I know that many people have this problem, that you sell to your client, it is to their door, right? You have their address, you put the airway bill, you put everything, and you sell it. The customer in Jordan, he is receiving the product, but he also is receiving a receipt saying that he has to pay, I don't know how many dinars زيادة, in addition to that, addition to that, just as these are for the customs formality or the custom dues. Is this happening to you?
Actually, I'm starting to.
Okay,
to do
so
that.
what I want to tell you that this is really happening,
yeah.
And it happened with me. I asked for a certain product, and for me it was DDP, and then I received the parcel. But Aramex, it was also Aramex. They gave me a receipt that I have to pay at that time $30. And then I said it was 1,500. Thank God the exchange rate in Lebanon at that time, or else would have been a problem. So, so imagine that for me it was DDP, but actually it was DAP. So what I wanted to tell you is that be very careful. Okay, you believe that you are selling DDP if you are selling one parcel or one box of dates, but most of the time, the courier companies, the express service, they do not know what will be the issue at the customs, at the port of discharge, or at the airport of discharge, and they add this to your receiver or to your buyer, and this is creating huge problems. Go ahead.
But in the case, if you have, as you said, if you have a stock, a store in the country to dispatch so we don't have this problem.
Yes, so when you have a big quantity, you send it, let's say, one pallet instead of one parcels. Even then, I'm telling you, the fulfillment center will give you the total breakdown, and they will give you per item and everything. This is, most of the time, it will solve the issue of the AP and DDP, but you will still have some surprises. So DDP, usually it's really all the risks on you, but it will make your cost very high first, and you have to adjust it on continuous basis, because the validity of the rates differ in their warehouses, in the last mile. Now with the fuel, everything is changing. For example, even if you have a last mile delivery that giving you a table of what is the cost, and you calculated your prices on the website based on it, with the fuel increase, things are changing. For the B2B, the e-commerce, the best way to do it is, like we said, negotiate a good deal with a fulfillment center. Try to make one station in a country, even if you want to sell to several Arab countries, but locate your fulfillment center where the other, it will be in one place, strategic place, where the last mile delivery can take place from that warehouse to different countries. We wanted Elvira and me to make another session on the, we have to do about the facility centers and the last mile delivery, probably in November. We will see.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome. Tariq, yes?
Yeah, hi Rima.
Hi.
Just if you allow me. Hi. هلا for the express or any other product here in Arabic we said سلاح ذو حدين, so it's either. So if you do it as a bulk, you need importer license in a separate country.
No,
but for e-commerce,
no, I mean like, not necessarily. Why? Because for example, like what we do, we provide the import license, we provide the facility, we provide everything. So it's a complete service that we provide. It doesn't mean that you have to do it.
Okay. On the other hand, for the e-commerce, for the individual, you have exemptions always from custom under e-commerce. So let's say under $200, usually the e-commerce is exempted. So you pay the minimal. So this is the difference. You need to do your calculation. So to decide either to do it in express mode or freight mode or whatever. But usually under e-commerce, always the best, I think, or I believe, to be as an express. And the receiver, he always should carry the customs. It's about education, how you educate your customers.
But let me just give you my point of view. You are right in what you're saying. If this is correct, Tariq, then you wouldn't have around 50% of cart abandonment.
There's
in the e-commerce due to the transportation. This is 2021 statistics. So we're saying that, and this is like survey, it's not just I'm talking about Arab countries or something, this is international. The survey says that 49% of the customers are abandoning their cart due to the transportation cost. And no matter how you put it, even if you say it's free for shipping, because you are calculating it differently, or you're giving, like, let's say I ship, if you buy 10 items, I will give you free shipping or whatever. When you sell on a smaller scale, your transportation cost is high. This is economies of scale. Whether we like it or not, this is economics. So this is, I understand that at the beginning you have to go B2C, you have to go with Express. Definitely, this is the only way to do it at the beginning. But once you have the enough demand, once you really have competitive price, have a differentiated product that everybody would want to buy, definitely then you have to go to the B2B and to have fulfillment center where you can really minimize your transportation cost and all your costs. Anybody else has questions? I don't know if there anything in the if you can help me, Elvira, please, in the remarks, sorry, in the chat, if there are any questions.
Yeah, actually, Rima, we have a couple of questions. I sent you a brief in the
Okay.
chat.
Where is it? It's on the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see. Okay. In CIP, you are not including insurance, but CIP, you're including insurance. Yes, in CIP, we included insurance, but I didn't go into the CIP actually because we didn't discuss it much. I didn't give an example about it, but the CIP, it includes insurance. But we didn't put it in the example because I mentioned in the example the most Incoterms that you use in the sales contracts. There is still echo now? I don't think so. What else we have? No. Okay. What is the, okay, let me see if I'm answering all. DDP are responsible for everything, shipping and customs. Yes, DDP, you're responsible for everything as a buyer. Shipping, customs, everything. You have to just give the cargo in the warehouse as with nothing else for the buyer. Who decides which method to use, our company or the buyer? Most of the time, to please your buyer, you have to ask him what he wants. So, but sometimes you say that I will not sell, for example, except on X works terms. If the buyer accepts that, it's good, but always try to see what they want because you want to increase your sales. This is from the sales point of view. Did I miss anything?
Can I intervene? Can I have a question?
Sorry?
Can I intervene? I want to comment on something.
Go ahead.
The first lady who asked the question about how to avoid the risk, etc. I think I understood from you that the Incoterms are commercial terms. That is an agreement between the buyer and the seller. It is an agreement on the sales contract. So if you want to avoid any risk, choose the Incoterm we want. So it's a choice. It's not something that we are bound to accept. But the risk that was asked on the vessel, I think this was the question, why the risk that the crane, that the cargo is dropped from the crane on the vessel or what? If it's on the vessel and we are shipping on CFR or CIF, if the cargo is still on the vessel, it's seller responsibility. If it falls down out of the vessel on the pier, it's buyer responsibility. This is the point. Now, what to do to avoid this incident? Nobody can do anything. This is the risk, like driving a car or like anything else. I don't know if I've been clear on this point.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, it's clear. Thank you. Exactly what, how it should be said, and this is probably how I should have answered. Some products are seasonal. Somehow calculate the period of shipping. I didn't get the question. Can you please clarify? I think it's. Elvira, can you help if I missed something? What else? If somebody wrote something and I missed it, please can you like tell me?
We have questions on liabilities for shipping company.
Okay, liabilities like for which Incoterms, depending on the Incoterms. So like we said, I'm seeing, what Incoterms do you suggest to adopt if you are a new buyer? What that gives you a manageable risk and competitive consumer prices? Is it a new buyer or new seller? New buyer.
No.
So
I think, Rima, if we have the companies, if they can ask directly the questions now,
it would be good.
so that will
for
be
me.
easier
It would be good, yeah.
to understand the question.
Okay.
Because I think we had many.
Her mic is not working, Christelle. So if you are a new buyer, Christelle, and you do not want to have any responsibility, neither in shipping nor anything, ask cargo to be sent to you on DDP basis. That is, you will not have no risks. You will know exactly what will be the costs, and you know that this is your selling price. You ask the seller to give you on DDP basis. I hope it's clear.
Can we ask by voice?
Rima, we have questions related to insurance, CIP and CIF. What is the difference?
I replied to that. CIP and CIF, they are obligatory to be, the insurance has to be inside the price. Yani, if you want to sell your product on CIF or CIP basis as Incoterms, you have to insure the product as exporters. But the insurance, it has a certain period where it covers, and this is where we, this is exactly the sheet that we were discussing before, where the insurance stops from the seller's point of view and where it starts from the buyer's point of view. If you can see, you will have the CIP and the CFR. It's in the other sheet. Let me go down. Can you see it? The insurance where it stops. Okay, any other questions?
Can we ask?
Go ahead, Ayman.
For practically, when all these types of shipping, practically what we do is to have a shipping company, no, to do that, and then we have to choose.
You have to have a very trusted freight forwarder and customs broker agent. This is the main thing that you have to look at when you're discussing shipping Incoterms, because they will guide you through that. Actually, all what I'm telling you about this, for example, at Seasky Services, this is what we do to the clients. We consult them what to do, how to do it, which Incoterms, and to negotiate. All of these steps, you have to have really a very good freight forwarder and a customs broker agent.
But when we sell on platforms, for example, like Amazon or other, so we don't have to deal with all that, no? Or should we?
Usually the contract between the marketplaces and the shipping service provider, they will give you the contract. You will know what is, no, you don't discuss directly with the shipping or with the freight forwarder, but you have a certain contract where they give you what is covered and what is not in the prices that they mentioned for you.
So this could be a solution, I mean.
Definitely.
Platform.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think
Hi.
we're done. Hi.
So first of all, thank you so much for the presentation. I know you asked if there are any questions in the comment. There are some questions. I just wanted to let you know.
Yes, can you please tell me where, because I'm not finding.
Of course, there is a question, how to calculate the period of shipping?
Depends on the place where you are sending, from where to where. I mean, like you also have to ask your freight forwarder. If we're talking e-commerce B2B, it's very easy. You just ask the freight forwarder that you're working with, and it's something which everybody knows. They can give you the time. It's by air, by sea is the most, the one that is really the long distance. When you're talking about air freight, it's usually between, it's either direct flight or you have between 3 to 4 days, depending on the connection and which airline you are using.
Okay, there are some other questions. You want me to read them for you?
Please.
Okay, do Incoterms have an effect on when the payment of the cost of consignment is made?
That's everything related to the payment terms. That is when the payment is done, about the product itself. is something that has to be negotiated separately. That is, Hala, for example, mentioned if there is a letter of credit, if there is مثلا cash against payment, there is like when cargo leaves the place, let's say we're talking about this example, from Alexandria, if your buyer tells you, I will buy your products on Xworks basis, it means they are responsible to do everything. You will ask them, please pay for me before I give you the cargo. This is logical if they're doing this for the first time, because you do not have any hold on the cargo anymore. You are just giving them in your factory. But, and again, this is probably another webinar about the documentation of the shipping, because the documentation of the shipping from airway bill to bill of ladings and everything, these are the ones that in one way or another, let's say, make a guarantee of payment. So the payment itself is not related directly to the Incoterms. It has to be negotiated separately, but the Incoterms has a certain effect on it, if in one way or another. I hope it's clear, because it's a little bit delicate how to discuss it. It needs another session. Any other question?
There's one more question in the chat box. Do you recommend an insurance for normal products where there are not too many risks as for food products or breakable products?
There's nothing, Incoterms, as we said before, it's related for between buyer and seller. But let's say breakable product, it means this cargo is fragile and it has to be packed by you. You have to be very careful with which shipping company you are going to use and to which freight forwarder and customs clearing. I believe that for breakable products, your buyer themselves will ask you to send a DDP. This is what happens usually. And if not, if you can like ship it on Xworks basis, you will remove all the risks from you. There is no right and wrong in Incoterms. It all depends, as I said before, on the sales terms, and depends how much you need this buy, how much you need this sale to come through. Because if you want to sell Xworks and your buyer refuses, you will say it's all about your desire, how much you want this to work or not as a contract later on to have a long-term relationship. As long as you know what to expect in the Incoterms, as long as you know what are your liabilities and obligations and your risk, I think you will be really, it's all about awareness. You will be on the right track when you know. So read more, ask more, have a freight forwarder or a customs clearing as a consultant to you, not as somebody you just like ask them for the price or the rate to ship. Just have somebody that you trust to guide you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, regarding the price, I'm talking about the transportation. Sometimes there is a slight difference, you know, when we give the quotation and due to the fuel price hike or anything, you know. So if there is a difference in the invoice, then it becomes a little difficult to adjust that amount later. So is it possible that we raise the invoice only for the products and then raise another invoice for the shipping?
Yeah, it's actually the last 2 years proved to everybody with COVID and everything that's going on in the world and the inflation and the war on Ukraine that there is a risk majeur that all the contracts have to take into consideration. And actually, this is very important, and it's a very important question. You have to mention in all your sales contracts, in all your sales, when you do it, say that these, first of all, always mention a certain validity, mention as a nota bene in the sales contract, and you have to mention it to your buyer as well, that this is valid under certain, like let's say for normal circumstances, and when there is a force majeure, when there's things that happen, this price will not be valid because it's based also on calculations of transportation, on fuel, on many other aspects other than the product itself. So always mention that, and it's something that everybody right now is doing, and the buyers are accepting them. This is when we're talking B2B. And when you're talking B2C, and it's only on a marketplace, there also should be in the contract, it's mentioned also on Amazon and other marketplaces, there's always some space and some margin for the buyer, for the seller, excuse me, to increase the price, because there are things that are out of your hand.
Right.
There's a question in the chat box. Where do we find a good freight forwarder or customs clearing agent?
To tell you the truth, I was working like last month. Somebody asked me to write kind of a list how to choose a freight forwarder and a customs broker. I'm still working on it, but it's all about trust. You have to really investigate that very well. In every country, there are lists of freight forwarder. Don't just Google. Lots of people are playing with the SEOs. Just go to the syndicate of the country, check the freight forwarders, take 10, 15, because at the end of the day, this is your business. You have to investigate well. Go to their website, check the reviews about of their customers, what the customers say about them. Check how many years have been they working there, their social media, their team, the experience. This is very important. I mean, don't go just to check the price. Go work with people that will be your partners that you trust, because this is a long-term relationship. It's like marriage. What else? Now I'm seeing what's B2B and what's B2C. B2B, it means when you sell business to business. That is, when B2C is when you are selling as a business to direct customers. That is, you are selling, for example, online, like we said with the example of the dates, each box separately. But when you're selling B2B, you are selling to somebody in the other country where they will also sell your products in the market. Okay. Yeah, you replied already. We have somebody else.
Hi,
Yes.
Rima.
Hi,
I have a
how
question
are
for
you?
you.
Yes.
I'm doing well here. First of all, thank you so much for enlightening us on Incoterms.
Welcome.
It's a very detailed presentation. I have a very small query. It is query for everyone, I think so. What is the difference between CFR and CPD?
Okay. This I should have mentioned CPT more. So CFR is cost and freight. You know CFR, it's about ocean. Let me share the screen probably. Elvira, do we have time?
I think yes, we can reply to a couple of questions.
I need to show them the CPT so that they will understand more. Okay, so carriage and insurance paid, it's CPT. Carriage, you are able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Carriage and insurance paid to is CIP. Okay, so if you just look at the man holding, the one who is carrying the product, are you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay, so when you're talking about carriage and insurance paid, it is you are paying the shipping as a seller when it's CIP with the insurance to a specific place at the destination. That is, the cargo didn't arrive exactly to the buyer. He specifies exactly where he wants it. Okay. So he tells you, you give him, sometimes, most of the time, it is like CIP Dubai terminal. CIP, it depends where he wants. It's a CPT, sorry, or CIP. So the buyer will tell you exactly where he wants the product. It is after the vessel arrives and or after the plane, the cargo is discharged from the vessel. It is discharged from the airplane. And then he gives you the specified place where you want it. When we're talking about CFR, I think it's under it. Okay. Okay. So when we're talking about CFR, if you notice where is the seller, he's still on board of the vessel. So the product or the cargo or the container, it arrived to the port, but it was not discharged yet.
Right.
Is it clear now?
And yes, it is clear. Thank you so much for taking my question. And my second question is, can we have presentation about documentation? Because most of the entrepreneurs, they look out for this information, because most of entrepreneurs, they're not aware of documentation, like what are the things are needed before sending goods to the buyer, like in bill of lading. Can you elaborate more in next session, probably?
Yeah, actually, yeah, as I mentioned
because
before,
that is a very important
documentation
thing,
is a
because
very important thing. I know.
As an exporter, we need to know everything in and out.
Probably we will discuss it, Elvira. We'll see.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So Rima, most probably we will have another session.
Okay.
There is a big demand for second session.
Hopefully.
So let's see when we can make it, maybe end of October or beginning of November. Concerning the presentation, we will be sharing the recording. So you can check the recording again and maybe take print screens and, have more information. Because I think for Rima, it is her material. So I'm not sure if she will be able to share the presentation, but I think it will be good for you to check the recording. By end of next week, we will have the recording on Ecom Connect, so you can check the recording again and the presentation inside the video.
Anything more? Anybody has any other question?
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
I hope everybody enjoyed it. I know this is a very delicate and a little bit difficult subject, probably for the people who don't know about it. I hope it was at least a little bit enlightening. It is an introduction to the Incoterms and the transportation. Hopefully we'll have other sessions that you can get more info. It was a pleasure meeting you all, and hope
Thank
to see
you
you
so
soon.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Rima, can you end the recording?
Sure.